Good afternoon, everyone, and thanks for joining us today. This is Joe with the LSA, and I'd like to welcome you all to our next edition of our webinar series. So today's webinar is titled The New Customer Journey, Understanding the Purchase Path, and will be brought to you by our guest presenter, Liz from SweetIQ. During the webinar, feel free to type any questions you have in the question box, and after the conclusion of the presentation, Liz will address those questions. But before we get started, just a few housekeeping issues. Next slide, please.
Sorry, that's me. I'm coming.
So for those of you, many of you are probably already familiar with LSA, but for those of you who aren't, we're a not-for-profit trade association representing the local and location-based marketing industry. We have roughly 300 members made up of marketing agencies, media companies, MarTech, multi-location brands, and we support a variety of these members through conferences, consulting, insights, research, advocacy, and a whole bunch of other stuff. Next slide, please. And I just want to remind everyone that the LSA 18 event, it's our flagship event that looks at the most critical topics and issues impacting the local marketing space. This spans everything from consumer behavior, small business marketing, national to local brand marketing, and all the challenges associated with each of those things. And this year's event is coming to Chicago, April 30th to May 2nd. You can learn more about the event, who's coming, who's speaking, all that kind of stuff at thelsa.org/LSA18. And we just have a kind of a new draft of the agenda up, so you can take a look at that and see if it's something of interest. Okay, next slide, please. And then finally, I just want to let everyone know that the webinar will be recorded and available within 48 hours. We will email all registrants with a link. You can also view past webinars on our website by looking under the Insights tab and clicking Webinars. So with all of that, let's go ahead and get started. Over to you, Liz.
Awesome. Thanks, Joe. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. Like Joe was saying, really what we're going to talk to you guys about today is the customer journey, how it works, and the role of omnichannel within it. But before I get started on that, I'll obviously let you know who I am, just so you feel a little bit more in the know. My name is Liz McConomy. I'm the Director of Marketing here at SweetIQ, and SweetIQ is a company that is owned and run we're still relatively independent, but owned by Reach Local, but really and I'll talk a little bit about this, the choice, honestly, because it's a choice to get acquired, it's a choice to acquire in general, but the choice that we made when we did this was really tied to the story that I'm going to talk to you guys about today. The truth is that over the last 2 years, we've been watching this kind of just this growing situation where there was really big challenges happening in the retail world, and the challenges that were happening were really around how do you connect better with the customer and still keep your business profitable and focus on all the things that you need to be focusing on. And as we were watching our clients struggle with that, and watching the role of local marketing in that, and the changing behavior of the consumer, we really started seeing the value in being able to track a full end-to-end journey. And so this is where I'm going to give you the pitch on SweetIQ, and I promise then I'm going to only talk about the customer journey. So bear with me. This is it. What we look to do and what we strive to do, SweetIQ and Reach Local together, is to give you a broader picture of the end-to-end customer journey, which will track its way all the way from even idea seeding or content marketing all the way through to a click on your Google My Business page that took you to the website that led to either a sale, a call on your Google My Business page that led to an in-store sale. And how do you track? You could track all of it if you want, but how do you track the most important touch points throughout that customer journey to know how to make better marketing decisions, how to make better business decisions, how to really choose what's best for your business and your brand moving forward? So that's who SweetIQ is. That's who I am. And now I told you, I promise, I'm moving to the next slide, we're going to get into it. Let's talk about the retail crisis. We've all been reading the news, right? The closures are happening across North America. We'd all be hard-pressed to say that this crisis isn't a reality for all of the businesses around us. But the storylines are dramatic, and they can really feel overwhelming, and they really tell the story of a storm that's hit hard, especially in 2017. We're watching big businesses like Subway that are really struggling, right? So it's surprising to see a large franchise like Subway, a brand like Macy's, a brand like Sears that are legacy brands struggling in this new reality, when one could have assumed that they had all the resources and all the capabilities and capacities earlier, much earlier on, to get ahead of this. So if some businesses are struggling, why are some thriving? And so we're talking about, and the winner is, but the winners aren't always necessarily the people you would expect. And I'm pointing to Ulta Beauty here as an option. Ulta Beauty has really done a terrific job of leveraging all of the different consumer channels available to be able to really plug into that consumer journey and tell a consistent story. But even beyond that, when you think about what has really been happening in the retail world and in the brand world, if you will, it's been that the brands that have been able to get ahead of the trends aren't always the ones that survive. It's not about, if you can forecast trends, I mean, good for you. But can I borrow your magic 8-ball, please? But the truth of it is that the brands that are thriving and are thriving and succeeding because they've been able to properly measure out the efficiency of their online presence and their offline presence, and have found ways to bridge the way between both. So while others are thriving, the question really becomes this retail crisis that just kind of hit the marketplace and hit the newspapers and hit the headlines for a long time. Is it a new phenomenon? And it really isn't, right? This has been brewing for the last 2 decades. The digital revolution started in the late 90s and shook up the brick and mortar world with a simple concept of a website for all businesses. From there, the changes came fast and furious, right? Social media, mobile applications, and a constantly connected consumer that everybody was kind of trying to figure out how to talk to. And I think anybody here who's in marketing and has been marketing long enough has read the line or knows the line. It's this famous line by John Wanamaker, which says, 50% of my marketing is working, I just don't know which 50%. And we've suddenly taken the mystery out of that with all of the data and the trackability and the information available on the consumer for every single marketer. Now, you face 2 things in this reality, right? One is, how do I start tracking meaningful data points? And 2 is, how do I know which media points are meaningful? So maybe the John Wanamaker quote needs to get updated. That is, I know that I've got all of this data. I know 50% of my data is valuable. I just don't know what 50%. So maybe it's a question of now moving it towards, it's less about where the investment is. It's about everybody's giving me measurability and meaningful data. I'm using air quotes. You can't see me, but I just did it around meaningful. Using meaningful data around, everybody has all this meaningful data around everything that they're telling me that they're doing for me, right? So my Facebook has meaningful data, my Google has meaningful data, my website has meaningful data, my programmatic campaigns have meaningful data. Everybody's trying to generate some sort of data point for me to be able to measure from. How do I determine what works? So it's easy to say that the winning businesses were plugged into all these platforms from the get-go, but they weren't. They weren't all immediately on social media. They didn't all have beautiful functioning websites. And it's also easy to turn around and say, well, the winners were for sure, Amazon and Zappos, and, they didn't have to transition from a brick and mortar presence into an online one. They weren't saddled with legacy processes and KPIs and systems. They were able to build something intuitive that was inherently adapted for the online world and the consumer. Okay, you're right. Absolutely. But when we're looking at that big picture, these brands that had such a great advantage in being plugged into the online world, as you work your way through who they are and what they did and what they're tracking for the consumer, if you look at their choices and their future thinking right now, Amazon's trying to find a brick and mortar footprint. Amazon is trying to figure out how can they have stores, how can they invest in companies that will give them a brick and mortar footprint. So this idea of the retail crisis, quote unquote, which is just apocalyptic and going to blow everything up, I'm not going to call fake news, but I'm just going to cough. Maybe it's just a little over dramatized, right? Legacy brick and mortar brands can be as lucky as Amazon and Zappos. They just need to be moving forward in the right direction. Now, before we get to the solution, I think the truth is we need to ask ourselves, what do we think really did cause this? Is it just legacy processes and KPIs that saddled us and that made us feel heavier and clunkier in our processes? Or Was it e-commerce? Just, e-commerce came up and nobody was coming in store anymore. Nobody wanted to buy anything anymore. Everybody had their mobile phone in their hand and everybody was ordering stuff online, or they were just finding the closest person, and so this like brand loyalty went out the window. And those millennials with their damn avocado toast, sorry I cursed, but with their avocado toast, they're the root of it all. But the truth is, okay, I'll give you partial marks on all three of those. Statistics have shown that millennials are happy to go in store. They want to go in store. They just want to feel like they're going into a store that knows who they are and that's connecting to what it is that they want. So the store e-com obliterated brick and mortar, and mobile has made information too available to a fickle consumer, and the millennial knows too much and doesn't have enough money, and they're just rejecting everybody altogether. I mean, those poor millennials, they carry it all, don't they? I am just outside of the millennial age range, so I can talk about them like I'm not one of them, but I'm pretty close, just to give you some context on who you're dealing with. But again, I'll give you partial marks on all of them, but the combination of all these is deadly, but they didn't work alone. There's also a reality where if you keep thinking you'll push through it because what's worked has worked and stick to what works, and you hammer away at traditional targets and marginal budgets for digital, you're not going to move at the speed of the changes around them. So I used to have this slide, and I'm sure you guys have all seen a variation of it. I used to have this slide that would talk about, well, when I start off looking at the 20th century and the evolutions of technology in the 20th century, there were like 15-year gaps between an automatic camera and the first, processor. And then when you hit the 90s, everything is one milestone after another. Google, Facebook, Microsoft, everything that's coming out, all of the technology that was available, the iPhone, all of the digital technology that was made available to customers and available to consumers, made it so that the consumer had to absorb the rate of change very quickly and figure out what to do with it. So any of us who have kids, we struggle with the idea of, back in my day, not to sound like, I just told you guys I was close to millennial, but now I'm sounding like I'm 80. But back in my day, I didn't have to worry about whether or not the stupid thing I did at school that day was only going to replay in my mind or was going to replay as a GIF across everybody's social media network until the end of time. And so those of us with kids really worry about what that's going to do. And so if we're worrying about it as consumers and we're worrying about it as parents and as members of society, then brands need to be worrying about how they're going to be connecting in meaningful ways with customers as well. Now, I know I'm not saying anything shocking to you, but I think we need to be able to take a step back out of the actual media plan and the media buy and, I got to do social because social is the thing that works and I got to move it forward. The truth is you got to take a step and you got to take a breath and figure out, okay, well, my kid's way smarter about how to use social media than I am. My kid's way smarter about understanding what's real and what's not in the online world than I ever could have been at that age because they know this world inside out. I was reading this article the other day about how kids today are consuming information in such a different and seemingly weird way. So I'll give you the example of, the YouTube videos of kids watching other kids open up Kinder eggs. So for those of you in the U.S., they're legal in Canada. So Kinder eggs are like these little, it's a delicious chocolate, but inside there's a plastic egg with a little toy inside. And they would I have a friend whose son was like obsessed with watching other kids open Kinder eggs. I have another friend whose daughter just likes watching other people play with Barbies on YouTube. Now, that's bananas to me conceptually because I'm like, I, as a kid, probably would have been like, where's my Barbie? I want to go play with her. I don't want to watch this other kid do it. But we're consuming information in a very different way. And so it really opens up a huge kind of vortex of uncertainty for brands in terms of how are you going to tap into the way the consumers physically consume the information that you're giving them, and how do you stand above the noise of every single touch point that they're having in that landscape. So I put this quote by Albert Einstein because I really think it applies. The truth is the world around you is changing, and if you're not changing with it, you're not going to be connecting with them in meaningful ways. So we need as brands, we need as marketers, and frankly, I mean, we also need like as grown-ups, not to tell everybody what's happening in life, but the truth is we just need as grown-ups to realize that we can't stagnate. You know, there's no hanging on to how things were. It was hilarious when my parents used to tell me they would listen to, you know, 8-tracks, or they would listen, 8-tracks, and records, you know, when I was in the world of cassette tapes and CDs. And meanwhile, now people are like, what's a cassette tape, right? So you need to evolve and you need to move forward. And as you grow through it is how you're going to learn from it. So let's talk about some real tactics and figure out how are we going to fix it. The traditional customer, this is the traditional customer journey, and it's even an evolved version created in 2009 by the McKinsey Group. And step 1 was consider, step 2 was evaluate, step 3 was purchase, and step 4 was post-purchase experience, so where you build loyalty, and just figuring out how it all works and figuring out how to tie it all together. And so imagine, in less than a decade, this journey has changed so much because of advances in tech, handheld devices, social platforms. We can't even keep up and create a model that truly reflects reality. So remember the old one before this where it was a funnel, where it was like, you know, awareness and consideration and decision and purchase and then loyalty. But it was a funnel, right? Like there were steps, and it started here when I watched the TV show that had a Tide ad, and then it was here where I was at the grocery store and I knew I had to do laundry and I bought that new Tide, you know, product. And even that feels outdated. I don't know, I'm not entirely sure, I don't know where everybody is from on the list of invitees today, but particularly for SweetIQ in the marketing department, we've tried to build out the story of the funnel so that we can talk about, you know, the place of local marketing in it, and the place of where listings come in, and reputation management and all that good stuff. And it ends up always feeling like, oh, but what about this? What about when this happens? Or what about when this happens? You know, the truth is these core elements, awareness and consideration and decision-making and loyalty, of course, they absolutely still are around. It would be foolish of me to turn around and try and tell you guys like, oh no, nobody ever builds awareness. It's just, it doesn't happen in the traditional ways anymore, right? So what we need to do is we need to figure out how can we be creating awareness or influencing decisions or helping build loyalty almost all at the same time, no matter where somebody's at in their consumption journey, meaning no matter what media they're using, and figure out how to keep moving that forward. And I think that means a much more authentic brand message. And I'm going a little off topic here, but bear with me. I get super excited and passionate when I talk about this stuff. And I'm just like a giant nerd about it. I read marketing books for fun, which I'm sure all of you guys do too. My husband thinks I'm bananas, but that's okay. I'm pretty sure most husbands think their wives are a little crazy. But the truth of it is, I love this stuff, and I love figuring out where it goes. And if there's a new something, a new platform, a new app, a new whatever, I'm the first to jump on it. I've never felt older than when I logged onto Snapchat for the first time and couldn't figure out how to navigate to any single one of the screens, or how to record anything, or why I needed to have a filter that made me look like I was a dog. I did. I felt so old, you guys, and hopefully some of you are going to recognize that and agree with it and laugh. Others of you were rolling your eyes and going like, oh my God, she must be so old. She's like, you know, doesn't even know how exciting and important Snapchat is. I do. I felt like an idiot that couldn't use the app at all, but you know, I've got it now. I'm snapping away. But I just use the beauty filter, okay? No dog filter. I just use the beauty filter because, you know, obviously. So, all right. Parentheses closed. I'm coming back. The truth is, every single one of these steps are still valuable. How do you tell a story that connects to it? How do you connect to a customer journey that looks like this? How do you connect to a customer journey that has nothing to do with that traditional funnel, that isn't step-by-step, that isn't one at a time? There isn't a magical formula. I mean, I could tell you guys it's about synergy, but that's the old buzzword. The new buzzword in marketing is for sure omnichannel marketing, right? It's got to be omnichannel. You got to be everywhere at the same time. And I hate buzzwords as much as the next person, so don't get mad at me for having used it. But the concept behind it is about you need to be saying the same message across every channel. So does that mean that for every Instagram story that you tell, you're building one to go and build awareness, you've built the next to build loyalty, you've built the one further to that to influence decision-making purchases. I've seen some really smart retailers, clothing retailers, leverage that type of approach regularly throughout just specifically Instagram, which is my social media of choice, if you need to know. And I'm sure all of you guys are thrilled to know it, but I have bought stuff off Instagram. I've been, floating around through my Instagram and thought like, oh, that's cute, and gone straight to the website and purchased within the next 48 hours the item that I saw on Instagram. And this one retailer, it's this brand called Eloqui. They're out of the U.S. They started online, and now they've built out physical brick and mortar stores throughout all of the U.S. And they're fabulous, and they're super hyper tailored to their customer base. And their Instagram stories, some of them are about like, hey, learn who we are and what our values are, and how we go about just being who we are. And so that's building awareness. But then the next story is, oh my God, check out this whole story about Sarah, and she came into the shop and went shopping, and here's her in all of our great clothes, influencing decision making. And then next is, we have a killer sale, go and check it out right now, here's the code, thanks for following us on Instagram, and that's building loyalty. And you're doing it through the same medium with inconsistent messaging that has a consistent thread, which is your brand story and your brand value and what it is that you're trying to teach people about who you are. And so all of this plays into this concept that I really like to draw into, which is the customer journey now is like a roundabout. There is no set path. There's no fixed point A to point B. There's point A, stop at A.1, go shop at A.2, get back into there, go to B, go back to A. We're exiting and entering our customer journeys constantly. And at times when we're not even looking for something, which is the awareness stage, we can be influenced. I follow somebody new. I follow somebody new on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. I see a new brand, I don't know, even in a magazine, in a traditional media. And I think to myself, like, oh, that's really cool. Well, how cool would it be if I could actually then see them show up, and a friend follows them on a social media platform, and now I follow them even though I'm not a customer, right? This is the key reason why retargeting and programmatic and being able to consistently speak to your customers in different platforms and keep influencing them is so important. And that's why being able to retarget to customers is so critical, because it's, okay, well, you saw us once and you liked us enough, I'm going to keep showing up on your Facebook feed until either, you hate me and then I don't want you anyway, or you start following me because you find me interesting, and then eventually I'll lead you into conversion. Those customer life cycles don't last the same amount of time anymore, right? Depending on when you find a customer, if they've been shopping for what it is that you offer and they hadn't heard about you, they see you, they click and they buy, that's a very quick cycle. Versus somebody, I have somebody on Instagram that I follow, and I love them, but I find them a little bit out of my price range, and I hem and haw, and I go into the website and I fill the cart, and then I leave the cart, and I do this whole very dramatic in and out type of path, exactly the roundabout, but I'm constantly getting communicated with. Back in the day, somebody would come into your store, walk around, think, oh, it's too expensive, and every time they walked by your store again, they would look in the window and think everything was beautiful, but they wouldn't come in because they were afraid it's too expensive. You have a much more interactive and dynamic way to communicate with your customers now. So this connection is about building trust, it's about communicating with them, and it's really about, if you're going to get into the roundabout, I'm there. If you're leaving, I'm there. If you're back in, I'm there. And some of it will be less subtle. Some of it will be much softer. And it doesn't matter, because I'm going to be there with my message throughout every platform and device and media that you consume to keep influencing you and letting you know that I'll be there for you when you need me to be. And so really, at this point, you could come into it and say, like, all right, great. Well, this is a local search association webinar. Can you talk to me a little bit about local search and how this plays into it? Well, the truth of it is that there needs to be a safety net that guides customers to conversion. And in our mind at SweetIQ, the way we really want to be able to connect with customers is by taking them online and bringing them offline. We understand that offline revenue, there are higher chances that somebody will buy more goods when they're in store than when they're online, because they're tactically feeling it, they have it in front of them, there's immediate gratification attached to it. All of those things. So if we know that these offline interactions and these offline conversions are so important, then at the roundabout, I don't ever want somebody looking for directions, right? I don't ever want somebody wondering, how is it that I can get there? I want that information to be readily available. So, I mean, I was talking metaphorically about the directions. Now I'll speak literally. I do want somebody to know that if they want to go to my store, then they're going to click on the directions. They will see that it takes 5 minutes to get from point A to point B. We will take you there right now. They can click on a call. They can call us and see if what they saw online is in stock. They can go to the website. They can find us, and we're bridging the gap between online to offline, because we used to talk about this whole, the click-through rate, and that, you know, everything was about online measurability and online tracking. Well, with the advent of beacons, with the advent of voice assistants, with the advent of mobile tracking and being able to geofence and geo-target your customers, online to offline is no longer kind of an ambitious hope for marketers. It's here. And this is one of those moments in the technology of it where this is, I think we could probably do something with Facebook eventually, but for now, let's keep spending on search. Voice assistants, beacons, geofencing, that's the eventually of marketing right now. And that's the bridge between online to offline, or we call it clicks to bricks, right? We want to bring people directly from where they're clicking online into your brick and mortar location and have them connect with your killer customer service, your beautiful displays, your ample inventory, your great product. And are you going out of your way to create a cool customer experience? Are you going out of your way to paint a picture that tells something meaningful for your customers? And if that's the case, phenomenal. So how do we keep growing that and telling that story and making sure that if you're working so hard to have a consistent and beautiful brand story online, that you're connecting that same beautiful and consistent brand story with your reality offline? Consumers now, if you were to ask somebody right now, like, oh, do you want your offline experience to be similar to your online experience? Honestly, you could ask a bunch of marketers about that, and they'd talk about it. I can talk about it all day. I do. They would talk about it endlessly. But if I went and I asked a friend of mine that doesn't work in marketing, if I asked, my parents even, and I said, well, do you want your online and offline experience to be different? They really wouldn't have turned around and been like, oh, well, what does that mean? To them, a brand experience, there is no like wow factor to being online anymore. And again, I think I'm dating myself. Just for the record, I'm 38 years old, in case you're like, she sounds like she's 62 or she's like 18. No, 38, right in the middle. I'm like alone in a room laughing at my own jokes because everybody's on mute. So I hope some of this is entertaining for you guys, because I get really passionate about this stuff while I talk about it. But if you were to really think about it, I remember in the 90s or in the early 2000s, I would go to a website and it was, not great or not super compelling or not that sexy. And I would be forgiving. I would be like, oh, well, it's cool that they have a website. Oh, well, it's cool that they have a presence online. I certainly wouldn't be like, oh, I can't believe this website. It looks like it's, made out of Microsoft Paint. I would have thought, like, cool, it looks like it's made out of Microsoft Paint. Fast forward to 2018, where we're all snobs about our web experience. The website's too slow. We're backing up. We're backing up out of that page. We don't even want to read the article. I don't want to see the content. If the cart won't save, if you make me log in every time, who remembers their passwords? All of that. And my negative experience is not tied to, the internet, which is what it was before. My experience now is like, this brand is the worst. I always have to log back in. And think about that. That's a huge shift, because people they're not as forgiving as they once were, and they don't differentiate between the mediums that they're interacting with. They just expect you to consistently be the same person every time. And I think that's fair. I think we were more forgiving when the web was new for all of us than we are now, which is we all have the internet in our pockets. And so we don't have any big secret around, there's no really big mystery or secret around the internet. We just expect it to be readily available. I mean, when the internet goes down, forget it, right? Like my entire office immediately is just up and on. I mean, of course, I work in an office filled with developers, so for sure they get super nervous. But I mean, it's chaos. And my poor IT guy, runs around trying to placate everybody. But we're at a point where there's no forgiveness. I remember dial-up, the patience required for dial-up. Now I'm like annoyed if I'm watching the little, my little Wi-Fi signal get strong. So online, offline, and mobile only applies to us as marketers. We have to remember that the end consumer doesn't want to feel the difference between all of them. They want to feel like they're getting the right, strong brand experience no matter what medium they're in. And so Jeff Bezos says it all the time with Amazon, right? We know he had his customer-centric approach, but the truth of it is he kept asking the question, what does my customer want? What does my customer want? When I'm on a mobile phone, what do I want? The Amazon app experience to purchase something is scarily quick and efficient. I mean, I've been out with friends talking about cool stuff that they've bought, and it's arrived at my house a couple of weeks later, and I've had to delete the app off my phone because, you know, when you go out for drinks and you get excited about your friend's sweater and then it shows up at your house 2 weeks later, or a week later. I mean, I'm not going to say it's creepy. I'm happy because I'm happy for the sweater, but I'm also like, wow, I shouldn't have access to shopping that quickly. Anyway, small slice of life on Liz. Everything's fine. Moving to the next slide. See, telling you, entertaining myself by myself in the office. So look at this stat, or actually this piece of information. Generation Z, which is after the millennials, so they're just going to be the next generation that annoys us all, but the truth is, this is about future-proofing. These generations, millennial and Generation Z, they're happy to go into a brick-and-mortar store. They prefer it. They're the ones that are going to determine the success or the failure of any brand coming forward. And let's be honest, in the U.S., we're seeing a huge movement, and we're seeing it in Canada too, a huge movement of this generation stepping forward and saying, whatever has always been this way, we will not stand for it any longer. And we will want to be influencers on what it is that brands are doing, and we are smart. We are not as easily fooled. We know how to leverage the web. We know how to interact in the right way, and we know who we are, and we know what it means to be online, and they don't hide behind anonymity. Very few of these generations actually have pseudonyms. A lot of them have actual, real, they're full avatars who they are, right? And they're not afraid to step up and say, I am Liz McConomy, and I am this person, and I want this from the brands that I'm working with. And let's be honest, I've had huge success for me to be honest, you guys don't have to talk about it, but I've had trouble with airlines. I went to IKEA. So I got really ambitious on vacation last year, and I bought a couch at IKEA while I was on vacation. Don't ask. I ordered it online, obviously, and I accidentally put the wrong date in for the delivery, and the delivery was supposed to happen while I was still out of town. So I immediately emailed them back. I got on the phone. Now I'm on vacation on hold with IKEA, like the worst thing to do to yourself while you're on vacation. And nobody was picking up the phone. Nobody was picking up. I was on hold. Finally, I tweeted them, and it took 7 minutes of back and forth tweets, DMs to give them the order number. They went in, they changed it. I got the email that confirmed that the date had been changed. Meanwhile, in the background, the hold music was still playing. And so our experience with brands are shifting, and our experience with how our patience with customer service and our patience with brands is changing as well. If you want me to be able to buy something that fast that I can do it in 10 minutes from the balcony of my vacation house or my condo on vacation, then you need to make everything else that happens around it that seamless and that simple. And that's what these generations coming up are going to want. So against everything that we've been hearing in the media about these generations, they don't want to live in a virtual bubble. They want to go in store. They want to shop in person. They still want to be in the real world. They just want the online world to service them properly at the same time as the brick and mortar physical world is doing it too. The truth is they're not going to meld into avatars, right? They're still going to be human beings, and they're still going to be going to work and wearing coats and buying yoga mats and wearing shoes and doing all the things. Maybe they'll want to order some of them online, but maybe they're going to want to go and try their shoes on in person. And so they want the experience, and they want to be, a lot of people say surprise and delight and wow them and everything else. Make it an Instagrammable moment. It doesn't always have to be an Instagrammable moment. You just need to deliver to them consistently the value that they're looking for out of your brand. And so I want to talk to you guys about a brand that's really doing it well, Starbucks. So Starbucks, my God. This is the unicorn frappuccino. You guys, did you know that there had been a unicorn? This is basically just a giant cup of sugar, just a sugary cup of goodness that people freaked out over. Now, I don't know anybody who was able to drink the entire thing without their eyeballs jiggling out of their head, but I did see 1,000,001 Instagram posts of them online. I did see tweets, unicorn frappuccino hashtag. This is a company that took the zeitgeist of what was happening, because unicorns were very in. Mermaids are the next thing, in case you didn't know. It's coming. And for those of us 80s babies, trolls are making a comeback. Guys, it's a new world, but an old world that we live in. And Starbucks leveraged it. They did all of the right things, right? They listened to their consumer. They paid attention to what was happening in the world. They made it a limited offer. They created a super Instagrammable moment. Nowhere on that cup does it say Starbucks, but nobody wondered, oh, I wonder what this weird pink purple juice is for. Everybody knew it was a Starbucks cup. And so Starbucks then tied it into their loyalty program, right? So for everybody that went in and bought a unicorn frappuccino, they were able to sign up for Starbucks Gold. They were able to sign up for more information. You've got Sephora creating customized experiences where you don't actually have to put the blue on your eyes, but you can try it and then snap a picture and ask everybody, hey guys, should I go for Curacao punch on my eyes? And you don't have to physically engage with the brand, but you're physically in the store. So this is like the omni-channel to the nth degree, right? I'm physically in the store. I'm virtually trying on makeup that if I actually am surprised at how much I like in the picture, I can go and pick it up and purchase it that day. So you're doing the virtual effort with the instant gratification happening in place. Nike did a killer pop-up. So this is obviously a Nike shoebox, but created as a pop-up, and they chose LA as the spot that they did it because LA has this huge sneaker culture that's happening. So Nike, a really well-known brand that doesn't need to do stunts, that doesn't need to go above and beyond. People are going to buy Nike sneakers regardless of whether or not Nike did the stunt. But what did Nike do? It connected with its customers in a cool way. And for a really sneakerhead culture in LA like they have, what you got when you walked in there was you were able to have access to any of the old school Nike kicks that had been really popular in their kind of history. And so this was stuff that's not available online. This was stuff that isn't available in stores. You had to go to the pop-up to get the 92 Nike kicks that you wanted. And that is a very cool initiative to be able to drive more results, more performance, and just better performance overall. So the brands that haven't been paying attention are suffering the consequences. You think of a brand like, RadioShack. I mean, it even says the technology store specifically on the door. I mean, womp, womp. It's okay, but they were supposed to be high-tech, they were supposed to be connected into all those things, and the truth of it is when you look at it, RadioShack never connected. I was out of town, and I had forgotten my laptop plug. And you could go to Best Buy and buy a Mac laptop plug. You could go to Future Shop. You go to any of these stores and you can buy obviously I could go to the Mac store and you can buy the independent accessory. None of those were around, but I did find a RadioShack. I went into the RadioShack. They were like, oh, well, I can sell you like a razor. I was like, great, thanks. I'll use that to send that report out. Like, what? So there's this idea of connecting with what's happening in the world and that was very much an inventory choice and everything else. I did it because the GIF is funny and cool and it tells a strong story, but this is a brand that didn't plug in and didn't understand, plug in, yeah, see the puns, right? By myself, laughing in a room. But they didn't connect in the right way. And so this omni-channel strategy is about reaching a customer just like Taylor. And so Taylor is young woman, she's out shopping, she's reading articles right now, she's reading about, skincare solutions, and she's seeing a Walgreens ad because it's, targeted advertising connected to the content on the page. She's reading about Lip Magic. Lip Magic is this cool product used by, Gwyneth Paltrow. I'm making it up. Don't quote me on that, but we'll go with it, right? Gwyneth Paltrow has Goop. She's big in the skincare game. So she's going, where can I find it? Oh, it's on sale at Walgreens. Perfect. And then the next step is, can I find the Walgreens local page? Can I figure out where the closest Walgreens is to me? So the idea is every content piece that you release, every story that you release, all that PR that you work so hard on, those blog posts and all of that content that you're using to try and influence your consumer, the influencer advertising that you're doing on social media, that's all idea seeding, right? And then you're going into discovery, which is I want to learn more. So I found some companies that I'm really interested in. I've gone directly to their website. So, I mean, some of them are Etsy shops, but, you know, support local. And I'm learning about the business. Maybe I'm not purchasing right away, but then I'm following them because I want to keep knowing about them and learning about them, right? And then I'm in New York, and one of the brand that I keep following and like going into the cart and filling it up, but it's a little expensive for me. They're in New York, and the next time I'm going to New York, I want to go to the store in person. And I'm pretty confident that if you put the product in front of me in person and I'm holding it in my hand and I try it on, and it's a jewelry company, I mean, I'm going to like what I'm seeing, and what am I going to be doing? I'm going to be giving them my credit card, and I'm going to be moving forward. My decision will be made. I will make my purchase. But this company will be able to, if they're tracking properly, see me from their Instagram, see me in the cart as a click-through into their cart on their website. And then if they don't have beacons and they don't have that targeting, they've got a purchase that happened off my credit card information that they can tie back into the advertising or the content strategy that they played out online. So this is about people using mobile phones are visiting stores. Now this is, to the group that I'm talking to today, nothing about this is earth-shattering, right? The truth is people that are searching on their phones for a business, or they're searching on their phones for something they want, are 3/4 of them are going directly into the store. And most likely, there's that other quarter of them aren't going because either the store was closed, it was too far away, or they found something closer. So how do you leverage all of that? Well, you create that tailored experience to your audience. You're collecting the data to create a tailored experience for your audience. So I told you earlier the John Wanamaker quote is going from 50% of it isn't working to 50% of my data is useless. You need to do more than just collect a bunch of data points. You need to be actually speaking to your customer. You need to be understanding from the field, from your in-store consultants, what it is that the customer wants, who they are, how they deal with you, how they talk to you. What are they telling you on social media? So what are they tweeting about you? What are they Facebooking about you? What are they writing in their reviews? What are they writing in their business reviews that they're for you? Are they saying that you're great because you have a giant variety of sizes? Are they saying that you're great because the in-store experience is so cool and there's a DJ every Saturday? Or are they saying they're annoyed because when they go there they can never talk to anybody, or it's impossible to return anything when they purchase from you? Listen to what it is that they're saying, because then your data points will guide you in the direction of how to best either continue to reinforce the good stuff that they love, start telling them you're solving for the things that they hate, collect that data, but connect it to what you know about your customer. And you know more about your customer than you think you do, right? Your customer is telling you something every single day in how they follow you, why they follow you, what they say about you, what they forward about you, what they share of yours, how they comment about you, what they reply to your tweets, what they retweet. All of that becomes really powerful information. So there's this piece too, and I've been reading a lot about it. There was a couple of e-marketer articles that came out that really support what some of the LSA content has been saying as well, which is the most data savvy, data hungry, and data empowered generation. So our kids, the generations that are coming, are going to be the most connected and most savvy generation that's ever existed. I mean, the kids that have been born over the last decade, they go up to magazines and try swiping. They go up to the TV and try pausing. They don't understand that not everything is touchscreen. They know how to navigate through stuff. There's, I have tons of friends of mine who have kids specify regularly that their kid knows what's the YouTube app or what's the game app that they like, and they know how to go into the phone and do it. And thank God for locks on the phone and parental screens and everything else, or old phones that can have the right content on it. But they're going to disrupt the global economy in a big way, and I think we need to be prepared for for the fact that it's most likely not going to be in the way that we anticipate. It's not going to be all digital all the time. They do want the blend of both, but they want to be able to walk easily out of the web into your brick and mortar location. And what does that look like? That looks like complete local data. That looks like a strong social presence that tells a strong story that allows people to tag you in their stories and tag your locations. It looks like reputation management. It looks like staying on top of what people are saying about you to really be able to then bridge that gap between, dissatisfied customers and solutions, and also satisfied customers and more of what they love. And so being able to bridge all of that together, that's the real omni-channel strategy. For a long time, omni-channel really read as be everywhere online that you need to be, and then just assume that people will still find you on the streets. But with mobile now, and we're getting to the point where if you have a voice assistant in your house and you go, okay, Google, what time is Pharmaprix open till? Or what time is CVS open until? And Google says CVS is open till 10. You get to CVS at 9:30 and it's closed. You are not annoyed at Google. You are not annoyed at the inaccurate data that Google has culled about you. You are annoyed at CVS. You are annoyed at the experience the brand is giving you right now. And so brands need to start planning for the fact that the local search SERP has changed so much. 10-pack, 7-pack, 5-pack, 3-pack, back to 5-pack, 3-pack. The right-hand ads for SEM have disappeared. You don't need to put a geolocator, or you don't need to geolocate your queries anymore on search. You just need to put restaurants, and they'll show you the restaurants near you. And so as a business, your chances to show up in local search and influence that local search has decreased significantly on desktop. It's decreased even more significantly on mobile phones because you have even more limited real estate. And in voice search, you've got one shot. You've got one shot. Okay, Google, what pizza place is open right now? Okay, Google, where am I going for dinner? And these are the things that we need to start planning for. And by doing that, you need to collect the data that's happening right now from your customers, figure out how they want to learn about you, and get on top and start testing your voice search friendly content. You need to make sure, get your ducks in a row. Get your listings built, get your reputation managed, make sure you have a centralized platform that's doing that. Of course, I'm plugging my own company, but do it with us, don't do it with us, do it yourself, just do it. You need to start moving towards that because that's how you're going to be able to really understand what does your customer want. Do they want efficiency? Do they want to have more seating availability at the restaurant? Do they appreciate a friendly face, or do they want somebody deeply knowledgeable about your product? How and why do they want to do business with you? Answer those questions and you'll be able to build an omni-channel strategy that really bridges the online world to the offline world and generates what you're looking for. So I love this quote, with the right movement data you can make better decisions to transform your business, but also to quantify the world in a way that was never possible before. So it's much less about being afraid of what's coming. It's about rolling up your sleeves, digging in, and taking it all in hand, because the future is here, and the real question is, what are you going to do about it?
Okay, great. So I want to thank you, Liz, for conducting today's webinar. A lot of great information, and I want to thank everyone for attending today. If you have any questions or want to be connected with Liz, you can email us at webinars@thelsa.org. And for a look at what's coming and for access to all of our past webinars, you can visit www.thelsa.org/webinars. So with that, thanks again, everyone, and have a great day.
Thank you, everyone.